nearly missed the rig because it was all white. The problem was that when you leapt out of the copter, you had no way to know how high you were up.
One doesn't know exactly how far you were going to sink into the snow.
You're looking down onto white, and you don't know how far away that is.
I found myself up to my nose, so just the top of my hat was visible.
I can remember jumping out of a helicopter, and boy, did it hurt.
I dreamed up the idea of putting a cord on him so that he could dash and slide on his belly all the way across the ice rink, firing the gun as he's sliding along on his belly. And when it came to the premiere, they got quite a cheer, that little episode.
I was a physical person. I mean, I could do physical stuff.
Lazenby was active and fit and great fun, and one of the boys. He liked mixing with the stunt guys, and I thought he was, a great guy.
On the evening of December the 8th, 1968, Peter Hunt and his crew filmed one of the noisiest fight scenes in screen history.
I wanted the real bells. I wanted the noise.
All right, let's do take two.
Poor John Mitchell, who was my sound man, he was the one who had to put up with all that.
In late December, the main unit returns to Pinewood to begin filming interior scenes of Blofeld's complex, while the second unit switches from ski action to bobsled action.
There had been a... He came tearing down there and stuck his head up, and the wire snapped, and he just went headfirst into this piece of wood.
We finished up doing that shot back in the studio with the real actor, where conditions were much more controllable.
On January the 25th, 1969, the unit begins shooting a variation on the required car chase, with a driving unit supervised by Eric Lavista.
The ice was so good, so skiddy, that it was marvelous.
It's hard to drive on ice, I found out.
But once you get in that car, and you know it doesn't matter how much you damage the car, and you're going to skid and fly all over the place, you enjoy it. It's wonderful.
But I turned right before the corner and just endoed over.
Upside down, so it looked as though he was travelling on the roof. Just a simple editing trick, but he got a good laugh in the cinema.
In mid-March, the filmmakers shoot yet another breathtaking scene.
I was determined that there would be an avalanche.
I set out with a small crew, and we went to this uninhabited pass, and we had a helicopter dropping bombs on the high mountains all around us. And we dropped these 3 bombs, and what happened was unbelievable. Well, it's in the film, you see it in the film, but it was like a huge avalanche. It was stretched 2 miles wide. It was coming down towards us, and I could see this snow and rocks and everything tumbling off of all the ledges, 2 miles wide, right in front of us. It hit the ground and then burst up and went over the top of us, and all our coats, anything that was loose that was lying around, was just blown away.
The long shot you got is just a long shot of the avalanche. The 2 people in it skiing down, representing Diana Rigg and George Lazenby, were put in there by my lovely friend Cliff Gully.
Peter needed extra shots of the snow coming down, which was all salt with model trees, and then we optically printed that over the 2 skiers, which they'd shot in Switzerland.
On Friday, March the 21st, 1969, on the A stage at Pinewood Studios, Hunt directs a scene that Bond fans thought they'd never see. 007 proposing marriage.
You've come from all that action and what have you, and you want to go a moment's breath, as it were, which gives them the opportunity to look at one another and become emotionally involved. In the script, it was the idea that she would propose to him, but I didn't like that idea. And I thought that Bond should always be the stronger character and should be the doer.
I know I'll never find another girl like you. Will you marry me?
While the film is still in production, George Lazenby finds himself hounded by a group even more nefarious than Spectre.
Distinguished representatives of the world press.
There's terrible press about him, which I could never understand. I think the press just wanted somebody to shoot down after having Connery.
Every day I had to meet a reporter, practically. The press came from all over the world because this character was worldwide. And most of the questions were, what do you think about Sean Connery?
George, obviously there's going to be some comparison between yourself and Sean Connery. How do you think this comparison will affect your image?
My image? No. Well, I mean, I wasn't compared with Sean Connery before. And now it can only lead to better things, I hope.
Before the public are even given a chance to judge Lazenby for themselves, the British press portrays him as a troublemaker, feuding with his co-stars.
The first time I think the press were invited on the set, and there was a love scene between her and I, and she was sitting at another table across the commissary and yelled out, "I'm having garlic for lunch, George, I hope you are." And so the press said, "Diana Rigg eats garlic before love scene." So it made out that we weren't getting along.
As far as any animosity about it, any annoyance or whatever, there was certainly nothing when we were shooting the scene.
You saw the love scene, we were getting along.
Once or twice, there were certain bits of temperament that got in the way, but they weren't lasting.
At the end of the day, we were buddies, you know.
They were obviously after him, as they usually are, to get some exciting stories.
I look back at some of the interviews I did and some of the things I said, I can see how much growing up I needed to do before I did that role.
Filming goes on despite the controversies. At the end of April, the first unit moves to Portugal and the spectacular Wienhouse estate.
We were going to have Tracy and Bond's wedding at a place called Zambujal. It's just beyond Setúbal.
It's a vast estate, wonderfully feudal system they still have. I mean, people work, live, die, go to school on that estate.
It was a great location.
Wonderful family, lovely family. They were in the film. The two boys and the girl were part of my crowd. And then I had that great idea, too, on the spur of the moment, of Bond throwing her the hat, which I thought was just a nice touch to finish it with her crying at the wedding. I said it to the set dresser. If you ask Peter Lamont, I kept saying to him, I want flowers.
Peter said, I want flowers, flowers, flowers.
I said to him, a flower wedding, Peter.
I've never ever seen so many flowers in my life. I remember Peter said, you know, how about decorating the car?
The Portuguese crowd that we had, as far as they were concerned, it was a real wedding. And it was a good atmosphere.
But the location proves trying for Bernard Lee.
I felt terrible one day. I nearly ran him down with a horse.
He wanted to show off his horsemanship.
They were like sports cars, these ponies that were made for being in bull rings. You could turn them on a sixpence, just and they go back the other way. And I was kind of chasing Bernard around this horse. And he ran into some roses and scratched his leg, and I felt so bad.
He came back, humble pie and all the rest of it. And we got on with the filming, but it was never forgotten. I mean, certainly Cubby didn't forget it.
Filming continues in Portugal on May the 13th with the pre-credits fight.
I can remember sending George off with the stunt guy to practice the fight, and they were doing it very nicely all on that sand. And I said, no, get in the water. You've got to be fighting in the water. And George Lazenby said, it's cold. I said, I can't help that. Too bad. Get in the water. Because I knew that all the splashing and all that would make it much more dramatic. We didn't know how to introduce this guy. We took elaborate means of opening a sequence with introducing him and all that sort of thing. So in the end,